Welcome to the Flame Tree Myth and Fiction podcast.
Hello everybody! Today is our last episode of Season 3 and we are very excited to be featuring a conversation between two wonderful creatives, Shilpa Varma and Adam Fitzgerald, about our upcoming audio drama When the Forest Watches. To give you a little bit of context before we dive into the discussion, When the Forest Watches is a 6-episode audio drama miniseries coming out in early 2027. We've been really hoping to delve into the world of audio dramas for quite a while. And of course, with the podcast, we have already produced tons of short story readings, but we wanted to take things a step further with this new project. An audio drama, as it sounds, is a dramatised audio performance that uses dialogue, music and sound effects to tell a story and create a world that can be just as immersive and powerful as perhaps a visual medium. So without me going on for too long, let's introduce our two guests for today's special episode. Shilpa Varma, who you may already know if you're familiar with the podcast, is Flame Tree's writer-in-residence, and in this context is the writer of When the Forest Watches. She is a London-based South Asian writer and storyteller whose work explores memory, folklore and diaspora identity through intimate, atmospheric narratives. Working across audio theatre and performance, she is drawn to stories rooted in oral traditions and everyday rituals. Her practice blends cultural specificity with psychological depth, often examining what is inherited, remembered, and quietly carried across generations. Adam Fitzgerald is new to the podcast, and he is the director of the audio drama. He's an Australian-British writer, director, and an award-winning actor based in London. His audio experience includes productions with BBC Radio 3 and 4, Audible, and AAA video games. As a writer, his audio drama Or received multiple awards and nominations on the 2023 to 2024 International WebFest circuit. Alongside his creative work, Adam works as a freelance audio tutor at several top drama schools, which, as they'll go into, is how Adam and Shilpa first met. Let's get into the discussion.
Hi everyone.
Hello. We are going to talk about Flame Tree Publishing's audio drama, first audio drama called When the Forest Watches.
Which, feel free to jump in, Shilpa, is about a documentary filmmaking crew who journey to a remote little village in India to cover a story, make a film, and things don't go to plan, shall we say?
Yes, absolutely. This is a drama that happens in Bastar, which is a remote tribal area in India. And yes, it's set there. It's written by me, which is Shilpa Varma, and directed by Adam.
Yes. And it was great. To give our listeners a bit of context, we have completely finished recording on this project. It's now in the post-production phase, and we're excited to see what's going to come out of it. Yeah, been quite a journey up until this point, and yeah, we thought we'd sort of pick apart a bit of the process, and there are a few questions that I want to ask you, Shilpa, and get to the nitty-gritty of sort of where the story came from. I can remember when you approached me to maybe be involved and maybe direct this piece, you had written this as a short story or a little novelette. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Sure. It was more that it was a 6-part series for print. And so it actually started last year when I had gone home And this was one of the dinner table conversations with the family, and we were talking about this god, or from Bastar region, which the tribals really believe in, and the stories around it. And I was so fascinated by it. And also, you know how it is when you go back to your own country after a period of time, and then you hear things in a different way and they hit you differently. So I was like, oh my God, yes, why not this? Why not write something about it? Then I spoke to Nick Wells, who is the founder of Flame Tree Publishing, who really liked the idea about it. And that's how the print journey happened. And I think when we were doing it, we were like, why not make it audio? And so there it was. And that's how we got in touch with you to, give it the
Yes.
shape we wanted.
I was very grateful and, honored to be approached. Again, for a bit of context, Shilpa and I go back to, I guess, drama school days,
Yeah.
where we were both at a place called Drama Studio London over in Ealing, and I was teaching audio there, and Shilpa was blowing me away with her wit and humor, which is remarkable. I didn't know you were such a fan or interested in horror or folk horror, things that are quite serious themes in this piece. Have you always been interested in that?
No, as I said, but when I got home, I suddenly was like, my ears perked up when I heard these stories. And it was more from a, folk point of view, which when I started writing, somewhere turned to folk horror. And I was like, whoa, why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, and I probably said this from the beginning, that's what really attracted me to it, because I love horror as a genre. And the cool thing about, I guess we can talk about taking the print form of the story into adapting that into the audio version. But the cool thing about the world of audio is that you don't need a massive budget
Mm-hmm.
to be able to pull off quite, high impact, ambitious scenes and setting and the story. Imagine trying to shoot this and make a film out of it. You'd be
Yeah.
talking a lot of money, whereas there's a lot that you can do in audio that's arguably just as effective, if not more so, and for a fraction of the costs.
Absolutely. Yes.
When we were looking at adapting it,
Mm-hmm.
did you anticipate how much would change in that journey from
I
the original?
Yeah, I knew that it can't be the same because print and audio work very differently. Like in print, I could take liberties about, writing about the place and the how eerie it was through words. But in audio, it is through characters and, of course, the sound design, which we'll come to later. But it was more through the characters and what they say and what they talk about. So I was a little scared if something would get lost. But I think we were very lucky to have found you, Adam, because you really helped capture the essence of what the story was on paper. And I'm sure when the listeners listen to it, they will know what I'm talking about when I say that the eerie feeling of the written words have been captured in audio as well.
Oh, well, thank you very much for saying that. I was reflecting on this because you're such a good writer. There were some really beautiful descriptions in the original format of the story, which made it quite easy to adapt, like really easy. I think together between us, we smashed out that first rough, almost translation of the original text into an audio format. But there were a couple of moments where you had these beautiful, very visual descriptions that I remember that was part of the tricky part of it in trying to come up with a different way to have a spooky moment, for instance, or the Van Dev chariots. That's such a visual thing.
Yeah.
How to translate that into the audio format. That was the probably the most challenging thing about it, and not losing your lovely writing, basically. And I guess we found a way to use monologue
Yeah.
to keep that, which our listeners will discover, but having the Van Dev speak that to us, speak some of these passages to us, was
Yeah,
quite cool.
true. And I think we should also tell the listeners that it wasn't just, love between us. There were moments when Adam and I were like, discussing every line. Does it have to be this line here? And so between the director and the writer, I think there were moments, and I hate to admit that most of the times Adam was right.
Well, I mean, again, what your job was very hard in that going from writing to, so almost like co-directing things a little bit, to then performing on the recording days. That's a lot to hold in your head, and you're already quite close to it. Whereas it's easy for someone like me, or easier for someone like me who's coming in from the outside with a fresh look on everything, to, yeah, I guess make different choices, let's say, because this could have been, we could have done this in a few different ways. But it did feel like we were a good team throughout, and especially in those recording days as well, where having your knowledge of the characters, came in handy when we had to fill in some gaps or think around some puzzles that sort of came up on the day. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Maya and her sort of journey in the piece, and maybe just a little bit about her, and who is this person that we're following?
Sure. So Maya is the protagonist of When the Forest Watches, and it is based on my journey back home, or for that matter, anyone who's been away from their home, and when they go back again, the things which they have taken for granted, which they have never paid much attention to, suddenly, we get a different perspective, because the world view has changed our perspective about our own home and our own people and traditions and culture. So I knew I had to write something about that. And that's how Maya happened, and the entire When the Forest Watches happened, because she is an insider and an outsider both, and how that reflects on the story, as in her point of view, and what it means to come back to your own roots. So, yeah.
Yeah. How was it watching? We had a brilliant performer bringing Maya to life in the studio, Nitika Nights. Yeah, what was it like seeing Nitika kind of work through Maya's arc and journey? What was that like?
Yeah, I think Nitika was brilliant, because she actually, we tried, isn't it, Adam? We wanted to stay true to the brief, as much as possible. And Nitika checked all the boxes for us, because she's half Indian, and she has her roots there as well. And she understood what Maya was. And it really, and she brought in, the softness and the, what is the word I'm looking for, like Maya is a little bit of both, like she can really stand her ground, can really,
Yes, yeah.
yeah, strong and confident, but also very soft as well. So I think Nitika really, really got that right.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it was, what was lovely about the kind of multi-episodic nature of it is nothing felt rushed. Her journey's almost like she becomes more and more in herself and more confident, and I guess more defiant to this entity that's kind of wanting to shape things.
Adam, I have been wanting to ask you this. I'm very happy that we are doing this when the forest watches, but you have been in this field for a much longer time than I. And would you think, like, is this the right time for a folk horror to happen? Or any insight that you would like to give me and the listeners?
I think it's a great time for folk horror in the world of audio to be existing. Certainly because this is a great story, and audio is a natural medium for folk horror, sci-fi, fantasy to exist in a way, because you can achieve a lot on a relatively small budget. It leaves a lot open to the listener's imagination as well. And there's a lot of cool work coming out in the podcasting space, and also from the likes of Audible studios that make productions for Audible and BBC Sounds. There's a lot happening in that space. So I think When the Forest Watches definitely has a place amongst these productions as well.
Yay. And also, if you can tell our listeners about our process or how we went about it. I know we spoke a little bit about how we wanted Maya to be what I had written her as, but what was the actual thing, how we went about it. Yes.
Absolutely. A lot of script development work, I guess, in this particular case. We had, and feel free to jump in if I forget anything along the way, Shilpa.
Sure.
We had a piece that was written for print that we needed to adapt to audio. So that was a big thing to first of all do a rough pass of, and then figure out whether we had enough to achieve 6 20-minute long episodes as was the brief, essentially. Alongside the script development work, there was also the producery side of things, in that already quite early on we were looking at studios to record. Where are we going to record this? We were already thinking about casting as well, and coming up with our casting templates and our character breakdowns. A lot of it really was, from the beginning, juggling plates, pushing different things forward as much as we can at different times. How did you find that, actually? How did you find the kind of multitasking across the board of pushing the script forward and then also switching our producer heads on?
Yeah, I think we got lucky that between us, you, I, B, and Olivia, the four of us, we actually could manage everything within time. And because there were four pair of eyes for everything, as in when it came to hunting for voice actors mostly, I think it really helped. In this case, not eyes, ears. But yeah, but it definitely helped. And I personally hate Excel sheets, but in this case I have to admit that they really helped, knowing what to do next, what each of us felt about the voice acting or the piece that we wanted our actors to audition for. So everything. So yeah, I think it was very organized, and I think that took off most of the tension, as in the steam off, because we were
Absolutely.
organized. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, props to Olivia and B, part of the in-house team at Flame Tree, who were basically our partners in crime on all
Yeah.
the and all the production coordination. I guess at some point because we were fortunate to have the budget, the casting process was, reasonably extensive. We got to a stage where we could have a first round audition where I remember we did an open call out on a couple of different platforms with a full brief, a list of our characters, a bit of a snapshot of what the project was, what the story of When the Forest Watches was about. And then we received, I want to say, hundreds of auditions in that first instance.
Yeah.
Before then had to whittle them down, before we had a second round in person recall, which again was like, that's quite a luxury to have in the world of radio and audio. A lot of the casting is done based off of people's body of work, their credits, their voice reel and that sort of thing. So it was, I think, and probably credit goes to you and Nick Wells at Flame Tree for pushing this, because the story centered around a team who, we've started with Maya, but we'll probably introduce the rest of the documentary crew in a moment. Seeing the dynamic of these actors in the one place was quite important, and it would have been hard to find the right dynamic had we not had that opportunity to see everyone and working together in the one place. Did you have any reflections on that?
Yeah, true. No, I agree, because I remember we got more than 300 something auditions in the first round, which all of us, heard and put down our comments. And then when we had the auditions in person, what helped, as you said, was seeing different combinations and it was like, closing your eyes and just listening to different voices, because in When the Forest Watches, all the characters are very different from each other, not just who they are, but also how they sound. And because they all come from different parts of the world, it makes them come up with a different way of speaking as well. So I think it was very, very interesting to see that happen in the in-person auditions.
Absolutely. So in that film crew, we had Ellie, I guess. Ellie, kind of producer, director, the real leader of the group, voiced by Berry George, who came in with just that alpha kind of energy in the audition. I hope Berry doesn't mind us saying she's got a very crisp received pronunciation, RP accent that just, it just dripped with authority, really.
Boss lady. She was the boss lady we wanted, yes.
Which was complemented really well by the character James, who is the cinematographer, cameraman, one-man army, voiced by Finley Stevens. Yeah, how would you describe Finley, both as a person and performer, and then also as James?
Yeah,
Shilpa?
I think Finley has this thing that you can't help but like him, that kind of a vibe around him. So we got him twice that day, if you remember, Adam, and both the times he just hit the right notes with a different combination of voice actors, and that was lovely to see. And when we worked with him in the studio, and those small parts that you assigned him, and he did more than 100% justice to them, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. For those wanting to maybe give a go at writing an audio drama series and then getting it recorded, multi-rolling is pretty essential. Even on big productions, it's completely normal that you'd have cast members voicing different characters. So it was great that Berry Finley could do that, as well as Betsy, of course, Betsy Swift, who plays Charlie, the kind of sound recordist on the crew.
Mhm.
You were mentioning different voices, different parts of the world with this group of people. Betsy's North American accent complemented the rest of the other voices quite well in
Yeah.
how distinct it was. Well done, Betsy. You did a great job. I suppose we have we missed any of the team members? Can we
Yeah,
move on
we are
to
missing the main
the main of
villain.
well,
Not villain, god of the.
yeah, God, it's
Yeah.
ambiguous, but yes, Saj Raja are doing some brilliant multi-rolling, both as the Van Dev forest deity and the village elder at
Yeah.
Defgar. Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about yeah, what Saj brought to the table, Shilpa, and then again, yeah, the importance of finding an authentic voice for these characters.
Yes, so about Saj, we wanted, he did two characters. One was Kavinath, which is the village elder, and then the deity, Vandev. And Saj has his roots in India, so he understands where, I was coming from with this story and these two particular characters. And he did a fantastic job. And because his voice was the kind of, what is the word? Maybe you can tell me. Heavy? No, bass, which
Yeah,
the gravitas for the deity.
it's worth saying that a lot of people that we saw audition in the auditions, in particular the recall, they were great. A lot of really strong performances. So it was often only small things that stood people apart. And I can remember for Saj, he had an ability to go quite deep with his voice, but then also he has there's a lightness to that as well. Like it was almost delicate, some of his delivery, which we were able to utilize to differentiate these characters and also do them justice, like casting an ancient forest deity. You need a voice that can pull that off. That's not an easy thing to do. So well done, Saj, on being able to deliver that.
And then I played Priya, one of the
Oh, of course,
last
of
of the
course.
characters. And
Yes.
uh, and personally, I would like to say that, what helped me as a voice actor was the first stage read we had, Adam, with the other characters. Because when you are writing something and in your head you think you know how to do a certain character, but when we sat together, we spoke about it, and you gave us time later to tell us what you felt about us doing a particular character. I think that really, really helped me get out of my I'm the writer mode to the actor mode.
Of course, Priya was, and you did a bit of multi-rolling yourself, Shilpa, but Priya's character was quite an interesting one because speaking of the team, she was sort of part of the team, but correct me if I'm wrong on my read of her. She's almost like a specialist in so certainly the language side of things in this part of the world where the film crew were. So in a different way to Maya, she kind of sat as a bit of an outsider in the group, in that she's probably not going to go with these characters to shoot a project on the other side of the world because that's maybe not her field of expertise. But Priya had a lovely dynamic between Maya as a kind of yeah. Did you write that in mind that Priya and Maya they share something that the others don't in their shared kind of cultural heritage.
Yeah, I think more in the sense that Priya had spent most of her time or most part of her life in India, and then moved to, to the UK. It was more me, while Maya was someone who was born and brought up here in a foreign country, and just knows about this place from her mom's or her dad's side. So
Yeah.
I think Priya is more Indian, while Maya is more English, if I can put it like that. But they still have this common thread between them. And that was very interesting to explore while writing and when we were together as well.
Yeah. Speaking of these kind of complex relationships, one of your other characters in Nani, Maya's grandmother, who we hear about in certain scenes and sequences, flashbacks, don't want to go into too much detail there. That relationship's quite interesting as well. But yeah, was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
I think what I also liked is we tried to create the ambience sounds that we did in different languages, because all of us, between the six of us, we knew at least six different languages, didn't we?
To varying levels of fluency for sure. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There was some cool material that we could record with that. Certainly your own language skills as our kind of Hindi speaker. Nitika could speak a little bit as well. Certainly Saj. Yeah, that some of the most fun I think I had was doing the crowd work and building the picture of the village and these villagers who, we didn't have a cast of 50 people, but that was some fun work that we could record in there.
Adam, about the editing, like once we were done, I think the more glamorous part was recording it. But after that, post that, how is it going? Can you tell us something about that and the sound design overall?
It's another phase of the project where there will be a transformation. We're at the point now, to those listening, where we've got the dialogue past the sort of rough edit of all the scenes locked, for lack of a better word, to hand over to our composer and sound designer Nick Wells, and a lot of good work done by B, of course, to get it to that phase. So it can completely change again in a way. We, as much as we could in the studio, we tried to find detail and authenticity in the world that the characters are in, that can then be enhanced in the edit. And the easiest example of that I can give would be when the characters are in their accommodation in the hut in the village, and they're maybe pouring a drink or eating some food. We didn't have a spot effects person, i.e., a sort of sound technician in the studio with us to create these sounds there and then. They'll be added in the edit, and that's going to obviously give the listener a buy-in, and they're going to believe that, even if it's all sort of artificially stitched together. There's also a big part, in fact, another character that's going to come to life in the edit with the sound design and the score in the forest. Not just from literally the forest deity's point of view, the Vandev's point of view, which there's some stuff to play around with there, but just the sounds of the forest was such a big part of your original piece in the description, that we didn't have up until this point. So I'm really excited to see how it's going to transform, and the work that Nick's going to do on that. and it's a lengthy process. Wow. Like there's so much work that goes into this. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. And you're equally excited to see how it all falls into place and what it transforms into from the first word put on paper. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, everyone did such a good job, and thank you to everyone who's, played a part in that.
yeah, thank you to all our actors and, of course, the technical producer in the studio, Mika McCready. Yes, she's
Yes,
wonderful.
Mika was brilliant. As you say, Shilpa, Audio House Studios did a great job with us, and were great support there on the day. And to record 3 20-minute episodes times 2 over a weekend was a lot of work, but we got it done in no small part thanks to them and Mika.
I think, yeah, that's all we have for the moment till the audio drama comes out. So a big thank you to all you listeners out there. And I think I'm keeping my fingers crossed that you guys really like our radio drama When the Forest Watches.
It's going to be fantastic. Can't wait to share it with the world. Thank you, everyone.
A huge thank you to Shilpa and Adam for taking the time to talk us through When the Forest Watches. We are really excited to venture further into the world of audio drama with this project, and we really can't wait for you to hear it. While we're now wrapping up season 3 of the podcast and taking a little hiatus, we will be returning with the release of When the Forest Watches in early 2027. We have loads of new and exciting things to come, so keep following us and make sure you subscribe to our Myth and Fiction newsletter for updates. And of course, for all the writers out there, please keep an eye on the many submission calls we have open and ones that we will be opening. You'll have heard Bee's goodbye a couple of weeks ago, but I also wanted to give her my own goodbye. Bee has been with Flame Tree for over 2 years and has been at the very centre of the podcast since it started in May 2025. Programming, editing, and of course hosting. We're so grateful for everything she's brought to the podcast, and we really couldn't have expected when we first started to reach nearly 60 episodes and build such a wonderful community of listeners, while working with and featuring more than 100 brilliant authors from around the world and sharing their short stories. It has been a huge achievement, and we're incredibly proud of what the podcast has become. We will return, so this isn't goodbye forever, it's just a see you later from us for now.
Thanks so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Flame Tree Myth and Fiction podcast and look forward to the next episode. Do recommend it to your friends. Goodbye for now.